Are teams interested in him, or are the Sixers kind of stuck here? Sam Amico, AmicoHoops.net, brings us some more information on this bizarre, Sam. Markelle, you've been covering the league for a long time. You ever seen anything like this?
There have been very few things that I've seen. 20 years now, full-time basis, been covering the NBA, and this is one of those stories that makes you think, don't remember seeing this before, but look, the Sixers traded Nerlens Noel. They traded Jahlil Okafor, and they're going to trade Markelle Fultz at some point. And it's just a matter of, finding the right return.
I know you had written at Amico Hoops that the Cavs have talked to the Sixers about Fultz's availability. Steve Kyler of Basketball Insiders adds that several other teams have been in touch with the Sixers as well. Do you think there is a legit market, or are these teams just kind of kicking the tires and seeing how low ball they can go on the Sixers?
I think there's a legit market. Teams like Phoenix and Orlando that are in dire need of a point guard may end up giving you a little more, but again, the concern with everybody else is, are we going to be trading for another Anthony Bennett here? A guy who not only does he have apparently some physical things going on with the shoulder and potentially the right wrist, but it is, where is he going to be emotionally? Is he going to come to our team and be Markelle's not a problem in terms of, a locker room guy. He's a good guy, but is he going to be, is his confidence shot beyond repair? And that can happen, and we saw that with, the most recent example was an Anthony Bennett type who went number 1 overall and just melted down pretty quickly. And that's the concern with Fultz. And if you're the Sixers, I think you don't want to wait and find out. If you can get somebody to help you win now, who's going to be a fit, they will certainly make that trade. And those trades are out there. I mean, we saw the report that the Cavs have offered Kyle Korver and a protected first-round pick. If that's the case and you're the Sixers, I know you hate to give up on a guy after so few games, but, this is the NBA, man. You got to produce right away, and if you don't do that pretty quickly, and there's a lot of bad red flags surrounding Markelle, I think that you gotta make a move.
Yeah, and it looks like, as you've laid out in your reporting and so far on with us, Sam, that it's a matter of inevitable. It's when, I should say, matter of when, not if. So looking at that, I don't know how often we have examples of a conversation starting where it's a protected first-round Kyle Korver to this major boom, meaning even if there are 3, maybe 4 teams involved in some sort of conversation or interest in Fultz, I don't know how much that would drive up the value for Fultz, whereas normally it might for a player that has maybe more trust around the NBA.
Yeah, so again, exactly, like Otto Porter, for instance.
Yes, perfect example.
Is a role player, but his stock rises in these trade talks because more teams get involved, and a good player who will help your team, but certainly not somebody who's an all-star. But to your point, yes, his value is kind of being driven up by the amount of teams showing interest, whereas Markelle, I think most of the teams are kind of kicking the tires. The Phoenix Suns, they want to kind of make a deal for a point guard that they know is going to be their point guard. Orlando Magic, same thing. He's going to be your point guard. A team like Cleveland might be easier to deal with because they don't have to say, look, we've got our point guard, Colin Sexton. We want to see if Markelle can play shooting guard next to him, and Korver's going to help you right now, you would think, coming off the bench if you're the Sixers. And you get a draft pick out of the deal, even if it ends up being 17. At some point, then that's what it is. But so I think that, if those are the three teams who are talking to the Sixers, and I don't know that Orlando's involved. I've heard that the Suns are kind of kicking the tires. I think that if you're the Sixers, you know what, you just got to cut your losses and go with something fairly quickly. Even if Markelle turns out to be an all-star someday, which the odds are really against that at this point. But even if he does, you're making the best move at the time if you're the Sixers. And I think that if you can trade him before February, you got to make that deal.
I wonder, Sam, where the Sixers are even at in a position where they can make another trade. Now, the biggest piece that they have clearly, and I believe, would be that unprotected Miami Heat pick in 2021 could roll over to a top pick in the lottery, depending on how they are. But outside of that, we're having a conversation about Zaire Smith, who's injured. We're having a conversation about guys like maybe J.J. Redick and Mike Muscala on the final years of their deal, and, of course, Markelle Fultz. So my question is Markelle Fultz still somebody that can be involved in a bigger trade where he's like a component that's not the lead, or are we pretty much relegated here in Philadelphia to you deal Markelle Fultz and you're probably going to get back a second-round pick and player of Kyle Korver's worth?
Yeah, well, guys can always be throw-ins in trades. I don't think that the Sixers, at least from everything I'm hearing at this point, are, feeling desperate where they want to move, where they're going to move a Redick.
Right, or Muscala.
Now, of course, you can. Right. Now, you can always do that. You can move and Zaire Smith. Those are the guys that you're talking about. You can always do that and try to bring back another really almost borderline all-star with those type of guys. I don't know that, you'd get that, but maybe you would if you packaged a Redick and Fultz and like you said, the draft pick from the Heat. So those type of things, maybe you can package that and get something really good. But I think that they're wanting to rely, what wins in the playoffs a lot of times is chemistry, and they want to develop that. They have pretty good chemistry in terms of guys who have experience together. Now with Redick having been last year and Embiid and Simmons, all those guys having gone through a playoff run together, I think that they want to kind of keep that core together. And if you can add to that core with a Fultz, which is probably going to be their best opportunity to do that, because nobody knows what's up with Zaire right now with the allergy issue. And
another bizarre story.
Is actually, they've had some bizarre ones over the years.
Yeah.
They really have. I mean, going back to the start of Nerlens Noel when he missed the whole first season, and then Okafor, and then Simmons missing a year, and Embiid missing. It's been a strange, and it's worked out okay. I'll say that. They look at them; they're a contender in the Eastern Conference, but it's been an odd
yes.
way of getting to this point. And Fultz is another example of that.
AmicoHoops.net. Sam Amico is with us here, longtime NBA writer. Sam, so here's the difficult part. Like you mentioned, if someone calls the Sixers and says, "Look, we'll just give you a second-round pick," the Sixers have this decision of, look, we just want to break free of this and move on and take the second-round pick just to get something. Or on the other side, you have this guy who you saw at Washington, you saw him in the Summer League, and the guy that you have now does not resemble that guy. So are the Sixers and other teams around the league in that position where they're all just hoping and waiting that he becomes the guy in that previous tape? Is that where, they're judging right now in terms of his value? I'm not going to take a second-round pick because he could be that guy on tape. But I would take, something of a higher value, and then I don't worry that he becomes that guy on tape. But they're not – are they at the spot in their mind that they're not just going to basically get rid of him just to break out of this relationship?
Yeah, no, they're not going to just give him away because I don't think that they're desperate to say, you know what, this is over. I think they're pretty ticked off, though. I think they're pretty ticked off about, this whole shoulder thing, which just happened to occur again after he got benched in the second half. That wasn't benched out of anything he was doing wrong. It was just, we're going to go with T.J. McConnell here. So it seems like a strange coincidence that all of a sudden the shoulder's bothering him again. So immediately after that game. But I don't think that they've given up on him.
But that's the mindset, Sam, around sports in general. But the NBA is that there's probably scouts and GMs that scouted that draft and saw the talent he had and said, if I can get my hands on this guy for minimal, I'll take him. It doesn't seem that all 32 teams around this league are writing this guy off because of the I try to explain. It's different from like Anthony Bennett. You saw what he was in college. He had the same skill set in the NBA. He just stunk. He just couldn't play.
Yeah, but Fultz is worse right now than Bennett at his best.
They saw video of Fultz, which is different from the guy that you're watching on the court night to night.
And Sam, how many times have we seen a guy thrive in college, and for whatever reason, year one, year two in the NBA, they look drastically different than what they were in college? Now, for different reasons. And to the point about the Markelle Fultz saga, what I'm trying to tell Mike here is that the fact that it's mental and all these psychological issues, to me, makes it 10 times worse than any mechanical or play issue you may have with other guys who might have busted out.
Well, that is what is a big part of it at this level is mental. Everybody is so unbelievably skilled at this level. And I had a general manager tell me once, for instance, like Anthony Bennett, look, the kid really had a big upside at that age, but then he got here, he didn't live up to expectations. It really rattled his confidence, and he didn't have the necessary work ethic to overcome that. Especially, you don't know what's going to happen when you start giving a 19, 20-year-old kid all this money. I can only imagine. You guys were talking about when we came on the air, how kind of underage drinking, kind of doing that stuff. I can only imagine how I would behave if I were 19 or 20 and getting all that money. And I remember, guys, I played in college for a couple of years, and I remember at 19, 20, 21, and I was playing. I just thought, man, I just want to go party and be a college kid. I just want to go be a 21-year-old. I can't imagine how I would be if I was getting billions of dollars and thinking that, I'm playing basketball because of the check. Now, I don't know if Markelle Fultz is doing that. I don't, it's hard to tell. But all that money coming in, everybody kind of looking at this like maybe he's, and I don't mean this in a terrible way, but I've heard a GM say he might be a basket case. And by that he means he just, off the floor he's great, fine and everything. But as it relates to basketball, he may just not have the mental capacity or emotional capacity to want to play anymore or to work at it.
That's which is odd because he worked all summer long apparently, and relentlessly was working on his shot, and it seemed that he was dedicated to try to get better. But it's one thing if you saw a guy, Sam, that just shot and couldn't shoot, he shot 10 times a game. In college, he averaged about 25 shots a game. This guy had the green light to do whatever he wanted, and he took advantage.
Now he's putting balls off the side
of
the backboard.
Now he won't shoot at all. It's just a bizarre – like you said, if he shot with the same amount of times and just couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, I think it's, all right, this guy just can't play. But it's this guy shot and shot well and shot whenever he felt like it and basically made guys look ridiculous, and – now he won't do it.
Why is that not worse to you? Sam, help him at least. If you agree,
I don't know that it's worse or better, but I'm saying I think that's what's making GM say if he just something will click and he becomes that guy again, as opposed to Bennett or someone who just can't play.
I think right, and I agree with you on that point. I think he needs to for him to be successful on a different team. I think he needs to go to a team like an Orlando or like a Phoenix or even like a Cleveland where they put him at shooting guard and he's getting 15 shots, 20 shots. You drafted a guy at number 1 who really is okay. Even if he panned out, he's your 4th option.
Right.
How often do you say that? This number 1 pick is going to come in and be our 4th option, and not because the other guys are so old. Just the other guys are just better. Embiid and Simmons are just better players, and it's like, okay, so even before you get Butler, this guy's coming in to a young losing team at that point, and he's still going to be option number 3, okay? Now, it's okay if you go to a veteran team and you're option number 3, but if you're Fultz, you're going to a young team, and it's like you are clear option number 3. And guess what? You're not even playing the position we drafted you to play. Ben Simmons is going to play point guard. So I think that they kind of erred when they made that pick.
I'm not sure they knew Ben Simmons was their point guard.
Do you, Sam, real quick, hypothetical, if Ben Simmons is not on this team and it's Ben Johnson or Jack Simmons playing point, do you think that Markelle Fultz is here more long-term than he is right now?
Yeah, I do. I think that I was stunned, and I think it was the right choice. But when Brett Brown said Ben Simmons is going to play point guard, everybody, well, what did you draft this guy for? And I think at that point, and I know you guys don't have much time, but I think at that point, Markelle Fultz was probably, why am I here?
Mm.
And I think it's impacted him. He's let it impact him a lot more than it should, but it has. It's impacted him quite a bit.
Sam Amico, AmicoHoops.net. Follow him on Twitter.
Great
Amico
stuff, man.
Hoops, as he joins us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Thank you, Sam.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me. We'll talk to you soon.